week on Naturalista as we embark on a captivating exploration of how aviation inspires us to pursue our dreams. In this episode, we delve into the rich metaphors of flying solo and following the Magenta, phrases cherished by pilots for their profound significance. Experience the thrill of flying solo, a journey of independent self-discovery and the adrenaline of taking control. Discover how this parallels our personal and spiritual growth. As we face challenges, rely on our inner wisdom and embrace the freedom of exploring our true selves. Then, relax and follow the Magenta, the vibrant path that guides pilots to their destination. Learn how this represents trusting in a higher purpose, having faith in our direction, and finding a balance between control and surrender. By integrating these metaphors, we uncover a holistic approach to our spiritual journey, balancing independence with guidance, action with reflection, and courage with trust. Tune in to Naturalista for this inspiring discussion that will help you navigate the complexities of life with greater ease and confidence. A little bit of information that you probably would not find anywhere else. Welcome to the show, David. How are you?
Thanks very much. I am well. I really appreciate you guys having us, and we love to show off what it is we do here.
Yes, so we're so excited and grateful to be here today, and we wanted to just kind of go over a couple of different things. One of them would be, can you explain the concept of something that we're going to be discussing, which is following the Magenta, in your own words, that
Sure.
you came up with?
Sure. So it's an aviation term. On modern GPS, global positioning navigation systems, not unlike what people have in their car, we have them in aircraft. And the industry standard is that the line that you want to take to get from point A to point B is represented by a magenta line.
Wow.
So many times we'll refer to follow the magenta line. It's also sometimes where we'll try to get students to not follow the magenta line, to actually use some other skills and navigation capabilities without relying on modern technology. It's a little back to the basics, but it keeps everybody grounded in what it is we're trying to do, and that's safely get an aircraft from one point to another on the planet.
Wow, pretty exciting. So tell us a little bit about your story.
So sure. So I got commissioned in the U.S. Air Force coming out of college in the late 80s. Actually started flying on my own, took private pilot lessons on my own, and then got accepted into Air Force pilot training. Spent 26 years active duty in the Air Force. During that time, flew a number of airplanes. The primary one was the KC-135 Stratotanker. We did in-flight refueling. Big four-engine aircraft based on the old Boeing 707, and they're still flying them and probably will continue to fly them in the Air Force. But it literally got me to just about every continent on the planet. I did things that were amazing, that were very helpful to people, to our nation, and really enjoyed my time doing that.
What inspired you to?
I've always been interested in aviation. My degree in college was aerospace engineering.
Wow.
At the time, the space shuttle was a big thing, and so I was going to go help design the next space shuttle. But I always wanted to fly. And I had a friend who I went through ROTC with in college. She had applied to go to Air Force pilot training after she got commissioned. I thought, well, I at least ought to give it a shot. The worst that happens is they say no. And in fact, they said yes. And so in prep for that, again, started flying on my own, and then the Air Force sent me to pilot training, and it's been great because, sort of as you described, it's a passion. It's not just a job.
Yes.
It's not just a hobby. It's something I really believe in, which I think has helped not only that, but then my time here at Lynn to be able to help our faculty, our staff, our students really get into what flying is about.
So it's more about, and in Naturalista, we're always looking to see how your passion taps into your internal compass, sort of say, to bring you to where you're divinely guided to be.
Yes.
And flying was my father's passion, which is another reason why I'm so excited about doing this show. He since has passed, but flying was his passion. Everything about planes and, every single little concept of a motor or of an engine of a plane was a huge deal for him, and he had to walk you through the process, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So I was exposed to this since I was a child.
Great.
However, he always told me that the passion was that he felt more in control
flying. Do you agree with that statement?
I think it's a different focus. So, human beings were not intended to be above the planet. That just wasn't how we were designed. So the fact that we've conquered technology and figured out this physics and the science and the engineering to do that is pretty impressive. But all that physics and science of engineering is built by human beings who do make mistakes, and we're working with materials that do not last forever. And so it's incumbent upon any pilot, anytime they go fly, to be prepared, make sure that the equipment, the machinery is ready, that the pilot is ready, not only mentally for that particular flight that they're going to go on, but what happens if things go wrong. That's really, I think, the biggest thing that pilots are there for, is not when things go right. It's when things go wrong. And so there's an extra sense of focus that we have when we're going to fly that you probably really don't have. You get in your car and you run your errands, or you go to work, whatever it happens to be, and for the most part, you're probably not as focused and paying nearly as much attention, and you're fiddling with the radio and trying to, do whatever it is you're doing to get from point A to point B. But it's less of an intense process, I think, than it is to fly. We spend a lot of time, even before we get in the airplane to go fly, walking around it to make sure all the equipment is good. After the engine is started, we'll check to make sure things are good. Even while we're in the air, there are certain points where we'll check not only our position, where we happen to be, but also, is everything running the way it's supposed to be? Am I burning enough gas, too much gas? Where am I on that fuel burn curve to make sure I have enough when I get there? Those are things that you don't typically worry about while you're in your car.
No, not at all.
So, yeah, I think I don't want to say more comfortable, more safe, but you're certainly more focused as a pilot in the air than you probably would be on the ground. Sure.
While driving your car.
While driving your car, right.
Going back to the Magenta line. The Magenta line is more of the guide that appears on the map. It's kind of showing you your flight path, right?
Correct.
Okay, so if you could compare following the Magenta to following your intuition as a pilot, because I've been up there and I've noticed that even in a single engine, you have to look everywhere around like a swivel.
Yes.
To make sure you don't have planes coming at you. So it was a little nerve-wracking when I was told that I had to look around I'm like, wow, this is what we're doing. We're looking around for planes. Well, how do you think pilots shift from looking at the instruments to following their gut?
And I think that's really a big thing that is important for us. In fact, your comment about your head on a swivel, that's actually the phrase that we use to students is, don't just stand there and stare at the instruments. Don't just look at that navigation display with the Magenta line. You need to be paying attention to all of it and bringing all of that information into your head. The funny thing about the Magenta line is it's based on where the human being says I'm starting from and where I'm going to. There may be other things between there. There may be weather. Mm-hmm. The Magenta line doesn't know. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think a lot of some of the intuition, really it's the experience and it's the training that we provide to pilots and that they pick up constantly that really flushes out the rest of the conversation about how do I get from here to there. Yeah, I can be a robot and I can follow this, but that may not actually work. Or the Magenta line may be going through a mountain if I happen to be in a mountainous area. So I really have to pay attention to not just the basic technology and just accept it freely. I have to understand what it is I'm doing. That's always one of the things that we talk about when a student actually earns one of their pilot certificates is, this really is less about a license to fly and it's more about a license to continue to learn, because it is a constant process. You go to the most senior pilot out there with tens of thousands of hours, they're still learning things. And it's a craft that you will never master, you can only hope to continue to pursue.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. And it's something that changes with time because the actual instruments have changed since you started to where we are now.
Correct.
What can you tell us about that?
So, when I started, navigation was based on, we actually had a couple things. The first was radio stations that have been built on the ground. They're they're aircraft navigation radio stations, and at the time there were probably close to 1,000, and we're getting down to about 300 now, literally across the world. And that's how you navigated from one of these radio stations to another based on the instrumentation that you had. We didn't have any of this global positioning system. The other thing that we used in the big airplane, especially crossing the water, at the time we had a navigator on the aircraft, and we would do celestial navigation. So the navigator was actually using a sextant in the top of the airplane and figuring out where the star constellations were or where the sun was during the day. And they had a book that then translated all that to a position. And so crossing things like the ocean, there were none of these ground-based navigation systems. The only way to do it was to navigate off the stars and the sun, sort of like the old-time ships,
yes.
But it works. Then, of course, as we started to move into a more modern, technologically advanced navigation capability, we started to incorporate this global positioning system using satellites around the world that are tremendously accurate. But it's been a process to get everyone there and the equipment there, and the equipment continues to get better. The important thing that I think we as instructors want to make sure, though, is that the students simply don't rely on that as a crutch, that they understand how the computer is developing its solution to get from one point to another, and the other things that are going on in the airplane at the same time.
You're watching Follow the Magenta Line on the Naturalista.
Naturalistas, and we're back here with Dean David Cohen. Let's talk a little bit about what you've done. Let's get a little bit of excitement going here.
Aircraft is it's the Northrop T-38. It's a high-speed supersonic aircraft that is used for training not only by the U.S. Air Force but also by NASA. The astronauts fly the T-38 as well. I flew it in advanced pilot training with the Air Force. It is a supersonic fighter for all intents and purposes. The Air Force Thunderbirds used to fly it, and fully aerobatic capable. It was really a pleasure to fly. I did get to go supersonic in the airplane.
Ooh, how was that?
Everybody says that, and it was a letdown. So there were certain areas that we could fly these supersonic runs in, so we didn't disturb houses and sheep and cattle and whatever else out in Oklahoma. And so we got on this route and pushed the power up and I think aimed the nose down a little bit to increase the speed. And I watched the airspeed increase, and the speed of sound is referred to as Mach 1. Mach from the scientist that sort of developed the concept of the speed of sound.
Right.
And so we measure speed in terms of Mach. So you start at, say, 0.9 Mach, and it continues then. So I'm watching the airspeed increase to 0.95, 99, and then it pauses for a second, and then it goes to 1.0. So I'm now faster than the speed of sound.
Wow.
And nothing happened. I didn't see rainbows, I didn't see stars, I didn't hear God.
Dimension changes, nothing.
It was very uneventful. It was a little disappointing, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I bet it was an experience.
And now I can say I've been supersonic.
You've been supersonic.
Faster than the speed of sound.
Did that change you at all when you came back?
No, it really didn't. Again, maybe from a disappointing, like I was expecting something and I was supersonic.
It didn't. So how about, this is a personal one here.
So this one has special meaning to me. This is a Cessna 172 aircraft. It's very similar to the ones we have our students fly here at Lynn. This particular aircraft is named Lily. And the reason it's named Lily is because it's my airplane.
Yes.
We bought Lily about two and a half years ago. Anytime you have an airplane, I believe it should have a name. And so my wife and I spent a tremendous amount of time trying to come up with a name. She's got sort of the green color to her, so we were trying to think of, say, characters that were green, and it just wasn't working. Nothing was sticking. And so as we were kind of thinking about it one day after we got done flying, I said, the tail number, the registration, like the license plate, the last character is the letter L. So it was almost like now we started to look for baby names. So she's literally on her phone going through names that began with L, and we get to Lily, and we both stopped and looked at each other, and she's green, kind of like the flower,
Yes.
and so she is Lily. So
Lily.
Lily actually is hangs out in one of the hangars back here.
Imagine that.
And she is our pride and joy. We don't go very far with her. She's not particularly fast. She's certainly not supersonic.
Not supersonic.
But that passion of aviation
Yes.
is still there, and so we enjoy just kind of going places even for lunch around the state of Florida.
And it's representative of something very personal to
It
you.
absolutely
That
is.
you got to name.
I did indeed. I did indeed.
How about Spirit?
So at Lynn University, we actually have two pathway partnerships with airlines. The first is with Spirit Airlines, and the other, which is this aircraft down here, is with Republic Airways. Spirit operates a fleet of Airbus aircraft, primarily based out of the Florida area, but then operate around the country. And so we have an agreement with them where we will allow our students and instructors to interview with Spirit in advance of them actually completing all their requirements.
Wow.
If that works out well, they'll have a conditional offer of employment. And then when they meet all their flight time and training requirements, then Spirit will bring them on board.
That's amazing. So you've actually piloted.
I have not.
No, not a commercial.
I have
okay,
not.
no
I have
commercial.
not.
Okay, so not that one. So here is.
That one I have, however.
This is a very big one.
That is a very big one. So that is the KC-135 aircraft built by Boeing for the U.S. Air Force. The KC-135 was based on the original Boeing 707, which was the first U.S. jetliner. So when we go back and talk about the golden age of aviation, the 135 really kind of represents that. It doesn't maybe look quite golden age, but that's where she came from.
Pretty impressive.
So our mission in the Air Force when I flew her was primarily to do air refueling. So in the air we would connect, there's a sort of a tube in the back of the airplane that would come down, and it telescoped in, and it was like the gas nozzle that would go into a gas tank on a receiver aircraft, and we would pump fuel. And
Wow, so would you go above or below?
so the receiver would usually come behind us down here. It's this pipe right here.
Okay.
So this pipe would come down, and the receiver comes back here. We have a boom operator, so this is the refueling boom. So there's actually somebody literally laying down in the back of the airplane looking out a window, and they're making that connection then with the receiver aircraft. And it's anything from fighters that need to stay in an area so they can support, say, ground troops, bombers or cargo aircraft that need gas getting across the ocean, because they had places they could stop, but if they can do so without stopping, it's significantly more efficient. We used to say in the Air Force that we could have combat forces really anywhere on the planet within 72 hours, and this machine really makes that happen.
Wow. So this is a very special part of the Air Force and
It
their
is.
operations, because it just keeps you going.
It is, and so if we talk about technology, this is tremendously old technology. The first one came off the assembly line in 1955, and we're still flying because it is tried and true technology. We used to sort of say that the last mother of the last pilot had not yet been born. I'm not sure if we're quite there yet, but at some point the airplane is going to have to be retired because they're simply old. But our maintenance folks in the Air Force do amazing work, and they've allowed it to continue to fly even through 2024 now.
Oh my goodness. So that brings me to my last question. What experience did you have with this during the time that you needed to use your intuition rather than rely on everything else that was in front of you?
So at the time, I had a student who'd been out of the airplane for a while, gone off to some other training and came back, and right after takeoff, they had gotten confused about some of the speeds that we needed. Tried to get the airplane off the ground before the required speed. The airplane physically was capable of getting off the ground, but then not climbing. The co-pilot got confused, frustrated, and let go. So that was, I immediately took the airplane, I pushed the power all the way forward, got the airplane to accelerate while it was still low to the ground, but at least it was now accelerating. We got to the appropriate flying speed, climbed away, went back into the traffic pattern, and we came
And
back.
it was
and
this
landed.
one in particular,
That was-
and it
it
was
was-
full of fuel?
It was toward the end of the mission, but yeah, there was still a significant amount of gas.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's an experience,
It was.
guys. Hopefully, you've learned something about tapping into your intuition and how your passion kind of guides you to tap in. And we could see this with David here and all of the different experiences he's had with aviation. So keep in mind that it's not always going to be, unicorns and rainbows up there or wherever you are trying to figure out your spiritual journey. I just think that you have to take into account your past experiences because they help you calculate new trajectories or magenta lines. They kind of create themselves as you're making decisions. Don't you agree, David?
Absolutely, and to be prepared for those moments is really what we try to do every day with our students. Is you need to be ready when things don't go right, so that intuition, so that general situational awareness of what happens just kind of kicks in on its own,
Right.
and it becomes almost second nature.
Second nature. Thank you for watching Naturalista. Thank you, David, again for your time. And we're signing off from the Boca Raton Executive Airport. And you know what? We hope that you have a great day and that you tap into your passion. Have a great day, Naturalista.
The engine.
Yes.
This is the magic behind all of it that makes this airplane fly. What a lot of people don't realize is how simple this engine is. Similar to a car engine.
Right.
And you would think, hey, it's an airplane, it needs this big beefy engine, but it's not.
These are the cylinders, I'm assuming?
So
Okay.
it's a 4-cylinder engine, so
Okay.
there's our 4 cylinders that attach to our propeller.
Wow.
It's a fuel injected engine just like our cars today.
Right.
And again, it's kept simple, and that's the beauty of these engines, is that's what makes them run so well. And Lynn has the best maintenance team of all, and that's why we all work here and want to be part of this and fly here.
That's amazing.
Because I know I'm safe.
So this one's in for just routine maintenance, oil change.
So every 50 hours we do oil changes and kind of a general inspection. Then every 100 hours it goes through a larger inspection, and that's kind of what you're seeing right now. You see along the plane how all these holes are open.
Right.
So you can actually go in and inspect all the cables, check all the electrical and everything. And then every year it gets the annual, which is another, again, full inspection where everything gets taken out, completely checked out. So these planes are constantly being worked on, constantly being checked.
Constantly maintained.
Constantly, they're flying today, even the big Boeings and things, some of those planes are 30, 40, 50 years old. I know our dean at the school has a plane that's probably close to that.
Yeah,
Lily.
we've heard of Lily.
Lily is definitely on the more senior side.
Right.
And but they are fantastic. If the airplanes are maintained, they can fly for 10 to 12,000 hours.
Pretty exciting. I don't think that you get to look into a plane's engine and the hangar and all of that at any other show. Thank Lynn University for providing this, but I think we've all learned a big lesson. You have to maintain, and that goes back to your natural state. Self-care, in this case, that's what the plane is getting for yourself, for you to be body and working with your mind and your spirit. So remember that. Thank you for your time
Absolutely.
today. We appreciate
Absolutely.
it, and we will be right back. Thank you.